Let's show how we can simplify a multiplication problem using multiplication properties to justify our answers. So this is a pretty straightforward problem. The only operation we have is multiplication. We've got 5 times 7 times 4 times 2. And we just want to know what's the value of that. So one of the things I noticed right off the bat is that I can do 5 times 7, and I can then multiply that by 4 and multiply it by 2. But it seems like it would be much easier if we did the 5 times 2 first. And the reason I think it would be easier to do the 5 times 2 first is because 5 times 2 is going to give us 10, and multiplying by 10 is very easy. To multiply something by 10, we just add 0 on the end. So I like the idea of rearranging this problem so that instead of starting with 5 times 7, we start with 5 times 2. Now, are we allowed to do this? Are we allowed to change the order when we are multiplying? And the answer is yes, we are. And the property that says we're allowed to do that is the commutative property, or the commutative property of multiplication, if you want to say the whole thing. This is exactly the same name of the property used in addition when you change the order. So the order doesn't matter in addition either. It's the commutative property of addition there. So the commutative property says I can change the order and the answer will be the same. Okay, now the second thing I'm going to do that will make this problem easier for myself is that I want to do the 5 times 2, and then I want to do the 7 times 4 separately. I don't want to do 5 times 2 and then multiply by 7. That would be really easy, but then I have to take whatever I get and multiply by 4, and that won't be as easy. So this problem I can make a little easier for myself just doing the math if I use parentheses. Let's do the 5 times 2 and get an answer. Then let's do the 7 times 4 and get an answer. And then let's multiply those two answers together. That will be very easy math to do because I'm going to be taking whatever 7 times 4 is and just multiplying by 10, which means adding a 0 onto the end. So when we don't move the numbers, but we just group them together like that, this is called the associative property of multiplication, which we're just going to write associative property, but associative property of multiplication is its full name, first, middle, and last, associative property of multiplication. Okay, now let's go ahead and multiply. 5 times 2, as we've said several times, is 10, and 7 times 4 is 28. What allows us to replace 5 times 2 with 10 and 7 times 4 with 28? That's called substitution. Substitution is when you replace one number or numbers with something else, substituting. And then the last thing we do is 10 times 28. 10 times 28 is a really easy multiplication problem to do. It's the reason we did this problem this way by moving things around and grouping them is so we could get this really easy multiplication at the end. Because multiplying by 10 just means take the number and put a 0 on the end. 28 times 10 is 280. If we replace the 10 times 28 with 280, which property is that? Substitution again. We're replacing 10 times 28 with a different number, in this case 280, and the name of that property is substitution.